International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, and the President of Mauritania, Mohamed Ould Cheikh El Ghazouani, have inaugurated the two countries' fixed border posts, laid the foundation stone for the Tindouf Free Zone project, and launched the Tindouf-Zouirat Road project. Algeria has reiterated to the members of the Security Council its call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in the Gaza Strip to put an end to the ongoing humanitarian tragedy, affirming its rejection of any plan aimed at the forced displacement of Palestinians. The Palestinian presidency responded to Netanyahu's day after plan, saying Gaza will remain part of independent Palestinian state. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Zmani. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, left the province of Tindouf yesterday evening after a visit during which he and his brother, the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Mohamed Ould Cheikh El Ghazouani, inaugurated and laid the foundation stone for a number of joint strategic projects between the two countries in this border region. On this occasion, the two presidents inaugurated the two countries' fixed border posts, laid the foundation stone for the Tindouf Free Zone project, and launched the Tindouf-Zouirat Road project. Seizing this opportunity, the President of the Republic invited Mauritanian economic operators to invest in the Free Zone and to take advantage of tax and customs exemptions for trade and industrial exchanges between the two countries. More details with Said Bouhazi.
In a statement issued after the visit in the company of his brother, the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Mohamed Ould Cheikh El Ghazouani, during which they laid the foundation stone for the project to create a free zone for commercial and industrial exchanges between the two countries, the President of the Republic stated that Mauritanian goods and merchandise of clear origin are welcome and exempt from taxes, and the same applies to Algerian products, inviting Mauritanian economic operators to invest in the free zone and take advantage of tax and customs exemptions.
فهمت الرئيس إذا كان موريتانيا مثلا من العادة نتاعها تستورد 100,000 طن سكر نحبسوا بلي 100,000 طن سكر تفوت منا سون تاكس بار تريماس ولا بار سوماس ولا بار. Donc, les deux pays ne seront pas privés de la production تاع les deux pays. شعب واحد ونتمنى إن شاء الله باش نمشوا إلى أبعد من هذه الأمور هذه وضحها أنت قرار مكتوب ان arrêté interministériel qui peut être repris par un décret du Premier ministre mauritanien et du Premier ministre algérien sur tous les détails كما يقولوا le diable est dans le détail pour qu'il n'y ait حتى ضبابة ماشي غيام. Aucun contentieux ne peut naître de cette zone-là.
The President of the Republic also indicated that he had agreed with his Mauritanian counterpart on a forthcoming meeting between the trade ministers of the two countries to strengthen cooperation and bilateral trade through the creation of banks and the facilitation of access for goods and merchandise, underlining that the Tindouf-Zouirat Road will facilitate trade in Mauritanian and Algerian goods between the two countries.
تعمير منطقة لازم يكون بالمرافق وبالتجهيزات العمومية مثل هذه إن شاء الله تكون في حيوية في الطرق لأن نعرف أنها طريق طويل مثل طريق تاع زويرات وديبو. أعتقد أن تكون فيه محطات يستغلوها الأشقاء بالنسبة للبنزين بالنسبة للنبات بالنسبة للأكل بالنسبة يعني تفتح آفاق وتعمر المنطقة هذه المنطقة حاليا باقية فارغة هكاك. إذا مرة أخرى نزيد نأكد على ضرورة السرعة الإنجاز بالسرعة لأن اليوم الشعبين الجزائري والموريتاني هم ينتظروا في الطريق هذه خلاص.
For his part, the Mauritanian president stressed the importance of this road, which will link the two brotherly countries, saying that the free zone will be a meeting place and a link for trade. In order to take all the measures in advance for the free exchange zone between Algeria and Mauritania, I think in the framework of the partnership uniting the two countries, thanks to the dynamic and experience of Algeria, the project will meet the deadline. Today, I want to seize this opportunity to thank Algeria and her president for this important initiative, which will create complementarity and cohesion and will allow us to move forward in reinforcing the principle of brotherhood and good neighborliness. We are proud to say that Algeria is playing a major role in the region. President Mohammed Ould Sheikh El Ghazouani also praised Algeria's efforts to strengthen bilateral cooperation between the two countries.
Promoters, exporters and representatives from the civil society of the province of Tindouf have welcomed the visit of the President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, to the border region on Thursday, during which he launched and inaugurated economic projects designed to boost trade between Algeria and the African market. When approached by the Algerian news agency, representatives of the civil society expressed their satisfaction at the pace of development recently seen in the province of Tindouf, initiated by the launch by the president of two structuring projects of local and national economic importance, namely the exploitation of the Kharajbilet mining deposit and the railway line. As you followed in our top stories, Algeria has reiterated to the members of the Security Council its call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in the Gaza Strip to put an end to the ongoing humanitarian tragedy, affirming its rejection of any plan aimed at the forced displacement of Palestinians. In an address to the regular meeting of the Security Council on the situation in the Middle East and the question of Palestine, Algeria's Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations, Nassim Gawawi, said that, quote, "We are meeting today as the aggression against the Palestinian people reaches its 140th day with no change. Scenes of desolation and destruction are invading the besieged Gaza Strip, and the atrocities committed by the settlers and the occupying forces in the West Bank and Al-Quds are increasing." Said Bougazi has more details.
Noting that the world, including the Security Council, is incapable of stopping the evil machine that sows death with impunity, Nassim Gawawi maintained that those who think they can stifle with iron and fire the will to liberate and free themselves and dissuade the Palestinians from establishing their state by building settlements in the West Bank and Al-Quds are deluding themselves. The Algerian representative recalled the words of the President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, who stated that it is this will to live and to be emancipated that cannot be buried by the odious bombardments, the abject destruction, the displacement plans, and the ethnic cleansing scenarios that the Zionist occupier has not ceased to commit against our brothers in occupied Palestine, nor by the crimes of genocide and war crimes that it continues to commit in the Gaza Strip, crimes whose perpetrators will go down in history as criminals and enemies of life and humanity. The diplomat drew the attention of the members of the Security Council to the situation on the verge of collapse in Gaza, underlining that the decision of the World Food Programme to suspend its operations in the north of the Strip is further proof of the sad fate awaiting almost 300,000 people deprived of food.
The situation in Gaza are at the brink of collapse. The decision of the WFP to suspend its operation in the north of the Gaza Strip is another indication to the inevitable fate awaiting around 300,000 people that will simply not have anything to eat. We call once again for an immediate and durable ceasefire to put an end to this humanitarian tragedy. It's a demand that has become extremely urgent today as the situation continues to deteriorate. We renew our support to UNRWA and all United Nations agencies and all humanitarian workers that are being targeted by discrediting campaigns. Those are desperate attempts to destroy the basis for Palestinian resilience on Palestinian land. It is completely unacceptable to threaten to attack Rafah and to prevent the delivery of humanitarian aid using flimsy pretexts to strip Palestinians of their dignity and to push them to leave their land. Once again, we completely reject any plot to forcibly displace Palestinians.
The Algerian mission also warned against the risks posed by measures to restrict Palestinian access to the Al-Aqsa Mosque during the holy month of Ramadan, saying that such measures are likely to further inflame the situation and push it out of control.
Now, the Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian has denounced the American veto in the UN Security Council on a draft resolution submitted by Algeria calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza for humanitarian reasons, describing it as the diplomatic disaster of the century. The Iranian minister, quoted in a statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said that the repeated U.S. veto clearly revealed the international responsibility, as well as that of the White House, for the continuation of the genocide committed by Israel in Gaza and war crimes in Palestine. He called on the international community to hold to account the United States. Meanwhile, the American newspaper The New York Times noted in an article that the American veto of the draft resolution presented by Algeria to the UN Security Council calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza isolates Washington in its position of unwavering support for the Israeli occupation. The article points out that the Zionist entity has been under increasing international pressure for the past 4 months because of the scale and intensity of its aggression against the people of Gaza, with many leaders denouncing the high number of civilian casualties. The New York Times quoted Algeria's ambassador to the UN, Ammar Benjama, as saying that the veto implies approval of the brutal violence and collective punishment inflicted on the Palestinians. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. This is the English service. The Secretary General of Doctors Without Borders, or Médecins Sans Frontières, Christopher Lockyer, provided an urgent update to the United Nations Security Council on the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. He said, "This is the 4th month into the war, and providing healthcare and scaling up life-saving assistance is nearly impossible because of the intensity of bombings and shelling, as well as intense fighting."
Israeli forces have attacked our convoys, detained our staff, bulldozed our vehicles, hospitals have been bombed and raided, and now, for a second time, one of our staff shelters has been hit. This pattern of attacks is either intentional or indicative of reckless incompetence. Our colleagues in Gaza are fearful that as I speak to you today, they will be punished tomorrow. Every day, we are witnessing unimaginable horror. This situation is the culmination of a war Israel is waging on the entire population of the Gaza Strip. A war of collective punishment, a war without rules, a war at all costs. The laws and the principles we collectively depend on to enable humanitarian assistance are now eroded to the point of becoming meaningless. The humanitarian response in Gaza today is an illusion, a convenient illusion that perpetuates a narrative that this war is being waged in line with international laws.
For his part, the emergency coordinator of Doctors Without Borders, or Médecins Sans Frontières, Rémi Carrier, who recently returned from Gaza, spoke to reporters and described the situation over there.
The situation in Gaza overall is deteriorating weeks after weeks. I think aid is not entering at the level it should. People have really little chance to see their situation improving, and they are scared. Today there is no safe place in Gaza. There is a big part of the country that is not accessible. People now start to move from Rafah to go into middle area, and we see more and more people going into places that are not, safe areas neither, and where it's very difficult for aid to be able to support them. everything is so fragile from food perspective, and getting truck in the north is becoming very difficult, and WFP decided to pause these actions. On the medical side, you don't have hospitals anymore. You don't have maternity anymore. You don't have primary health care anymore. The number of hospitals that are remaining cannot cater for the needs of the victims or the people that are sick. The only hope for the people is a ceasefire would allow them to rest, to sleep, and to get proper treatment. Yeah.
Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process and personal representative of the Secretary, Tor Wensland, also visited the Gaza Strip this week and warned about the tragic consequences of a possible ground invasion on Rafah.
I was in Gaza this week to see firsthand the unfolding tragedy and to meet with our tireless and brave teams on the ground who face impossible challenges to deliver life-saving assistance to Palestinian civilians in the Strip. What I saw was shocking and unsustainable. I'm deeply concerned about a possible full-scale Israeli military operation in the densely populated Rafah area, where some 1.4 million Palestinians are sheltering and where we have the only points of entry of humanitarian goods. I am convinced that there is no time to lose in laying a framework for Gaza's recovery and for long-term political solutions on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, including by advancing meaningful, irreversible steps towards a two-state solution.
Still with the Palestinian file, in response to Netanyahu's so-called day-after plan for Gaza, Nabil Abu Rodeina, spokesperson for President Mahmoud Abbas, said today that Gaza will only be part of the independent Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital. He added that any plans to the contrary are destined to fail. Israel will not succeed in attempts to alter the geographic and demographic reality in the Gaza Strip. He also stressed that if the world wants security and stability in the region, it must end the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories and recognize the independent Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital. The presidential spokesman, Rodeina, continued, Netanyahu's proposed plans aim to perpetrate Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories and prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state. In this context, for his part, the permanent observer of the State of Palestine to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, told reporters at a press conference that only Palestinians have the right to decide for themselves and their independence.
Not Israel, not anyone will deal with that issue except the Palestinian people themselves in exercising part of their right to self-determination. It's only us, the Palestinian people, who will determine our right to self-determination, including the independence of our state. We will not negotiate that principle with anyone, and we will not ask for permission from anyone to do so. We will not be the exception to the rule. All nations that exercise their right to self-determination to put an end to colonialism did it only alone, without asking for permission from anyone or negotiating that principle with anyone.
The Israeli occupation army has blown up a block of houses in Khan Yunis, a large town in the south of the Gaza Strip. The media reported today. According to the same sources, huge explosions were heard from the town of Rafah in the far south of the Gaza Strip after the occupation army exploded around 10 houses deserted by their inhabitants in the southwestern areas of the town of Khan Yunis. Witnesses reported that following these huge explosions, a thick cloud of black smoke rose from the sky over the town. For their part, the Al-Qassam Brigades, the military wing of the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas, announced in a press release that they had targeted a Zionist special force entrenched inside a house with a TBJ missile in the town of Khan Yunis. 100 children were among the 394 Palestinians killed in the occupied West Bank since the 7th of October 2023, the date marking the start of the ongoing Israeli genocidal war in Gaza. This was announced by the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. The latest UN figures also show that settlers carried out 573 attacks against the Palestinian people and their property during the same period. The Palestinian Liberation Organization PLO has said that the Zionist entity is practicing a policy of starving Palestinian prisoners in Zionist jails. The PLO's Prisoners Affairs Committee said in a statement that Israel's policy of starving Palestinian prisoners had caused them to lose weight. The Palestinian Resistance Movement Hamas has said that the boycott of the Zionist entity of public hearings before the International Court of Justice of the legal consequences of the occupier's policy in the Palestinian territories further confirm its contempt for international institutions. It said it appreciated the positions of the countries participating in the sessions, which confirmed the widespread violations of international law practiced by the terrorist occupying entity against the Palestinian people and their occupied lands, including the massacres and genocide in the Gaza Strip, the violations, killings and expansion of settlements in the occupied West Bank and Al-Quds. Now back to Algeria. Humanitarian solidarity caravan for the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip has been launched from the province of Ghardaia, initiated by the local section of the Algerian Red Crescent and the province of Ghardaia in collaboration with the Majlis Ba Abderrahman Al-Kurti, considered to be the High Council of Notables of the Ibadid Right. Its solidarity caravan made up of more than 5 semi-trailers loaded with humanitarian aid. In other news, experts in energy, information and communication have underlined at a training session for journalists at the EPTV headquarters the need to ensure good media coverage of the 7th Summit of Heads of State and Government of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, scheduled to take place in Algiers from the 29th February to the 2nd of March. Meanwhile, the Libyan Minister of Oil and Gas, Mohamed Aoun, said that the 7th Summit of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, to be hosted by Algeria at the end of next week, is of crucial importance given the upheavals in the world, especially since gas will be the fuel for the transition from fossil fuels to alternative and renewable energies. In a statement to the Algerian news agency, the Libyan minister stressed that gas exporting countries have reserves that can exceed 70% of the world's gas reserves, which makes this forum, which meets every 2 years, of crucial importance as the member countries contribute to supplying different regions of the world with liquid or natural gas. The same official also highlighted the role of Algeria and Libya among the African countries exporting large quantities of gas in the world, hailing the contribution of the forum member countries to alleviating the fuel crisis in Europe, a contribution of particular importance in the current geopolitical context. The Libyan minister called for an energy partnership based on equality and recognition of common interests, taking into account the situation of many African countries that are producers and exporters of gas. We must take into consideration the situation of each country, he said, particularly African countries which have considerable resources at their disposal, not to mention that the fact that there are major projects for the construction of gas pipelines to Europe, underlining that African countries have not benefited from this wealth, and it is high time they did. The Libyan leader also called for the need for African states to unify their gas, electricity, water and rail networks to protect their interests and even those of other countries, adding that it is possible to connect these countries to electricity and other networks following the example of gas pipelines. In this context, the Libyan Minister for Oil and Gas once again called on important organizations on the African continent, such as the African Union and the African Petroleum Organization, to unite and act in the interests of their countries, adding that more than 600 million Africans do not have access to electricity. He pointed out that Africa is rich in both energy, gas and oil, as well as natural, agricultural and animal resources. He added that African countries are not again partnership with foreign countries, European countries or the United States, but the partnership must be mutually beneficial with equal interest far from any injustice towards any country. Next is a program on gas.
Algeria, which is due to hold the 7th Summit of Heads of State and Government of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum from the 29th of February to the 2nd of March, is poised to maintain a significant role in the global energy landscape, leveraging its abundant natural gas resources. The CEO of Sonatrach, Rachid Hashishi, emphasized the pivotal role of natural gas during the second Libyan Energy and Economy Summit held last month in Tripoli. He highlighted the transformative potential of natural gas, positioning Algeria as a key player in achieving carbon neutrality goals. He projected that natural gas would account for approximately 24% of global demand by 2040 and rise to 36% by 2050. Surpassing coal to become the second largest energy source after oil, Algeria, with its substantial gas reserves, is positioned not only to meet its domestic needs, but also to play a crucial role in supplying Europe. The Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline project connecting Algeria and Nigeria makes Algeria a strategic link in transporting gas from Africa to Europe. Algeria's strategic position in Africa makes it a vital supplier of gas to Europe through Sonatrach. The company operates an extensive pipeline network spanning 23,000 kilometers, connecting Tunisia, Italy, Spain, and Eastern European countries. This network provides Algeria with a significant advantage in meeting Europe's energy needs. Recent figures indicate a 6% growth in Algeria's gas exports, reaching nearly 52.4 billion cubic meters in 2023 compared to over 49 billion cubic meters in 2022. This growth is primarily driven by liquefied natural gas exports, reaching a record of 13.45 million tons last year, surpassing the 11 million tons recorded in 2022. Algeria has maintained its position as Spain's top gas supplier, surpassing the United States and Russia. Global gas consumption continues to rise, especially during winter months, driven by the European Union's peak gas consumption periods. Additionally, China's demand is increasing due to economic recovery following pandemic-related lockdowns, contributing to an overall rebound in energy demand, including gas. Last month, in his summit address, Hashishi emphasized that natural gas plays a positive role in the anticipated energy transformation, being considered the preferred fuel to meet growing energy needs while reducing pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. He highlighted the clean-burning nature of natural gas compared to oil and coal, making it a confirmed and essential choice, especially in urban environments. The European Parliament's authorization of natural gas as a green energy in July 2022 further solidifies its status as a sustainable energy source. The designation enables EU countries to access funds for financing gas-related projects, aligning with the global push towards carbon neutrality.
With this, we come to the end of our news bulletin for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye for now.
The 7th Summit meeting of the heads of state and government of the gas exporting countries, Algeria 2024. The Algerian radio is ensuring round-the-clock coverage of the Algeria Summit.